Welcome, everybody. Welcome, fellow patriots. Welcome, fellow deplorables. Welcome, all you dregs of society, rock dwellers, sycophants, stinkos, all you hateful people who celebrate the president. You know you're always welcome here, and here is the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network, and joining me as my co-host is the president and CEO of Frontiers of Freedom. That's George Landrith. George, welcome back to Conservative Commandos.
It's great to be here. This is the place to be. So I'm glad I'm here and not someplace else.
Well, George, I see you've had your thinking cap on, and you've had some.
Is my hair matted down?
Yes, I see it. I see it. And you have had some really interesting thoughts on the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence.
Well, you know, I used to teach constitutional law in law school, and one of the things that I've always been frustrated by, and I really been bugging me the last several days, is all this talk back and forth as we talk about opening up the government. You'll see people who think we should stay shut down arguing, show me where in the Constitution it gives you the right to get a haircut. Or show me in the Constitution where it gives you the right to open your business. And I'm like, they're not even asking the right question. That's not even, I mean, you get an F because you not even ask the right question. Because first of all, the Constitution wasn't written to give you rights. It doesn't give you a single right. And someone says, oh no, George, that's
wrong. A lot of
wrong.
people might find that hard to believe, George.
I know, but like they say, oh, in the First Amendment, it gives you the right to free speech and freedom of religion. And I say, no, it doesn't. Read it more carefully. What it says is that Congress cannot usurp that right. It doesn't give it to you. It's simply, it presupposes that you already had that right. All it's saying is that government has a long, sad history of usurping the rights that were naturally yours. So let's go back to the Declaration of Independence. What does it say? We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal and endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, among these are life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. Unalienable rights are rights that cannot be sold, given away, taken from you. You're stuck with them. It's like your skin, man. It's yours. So, so they believe that, and so the First Amendment gives you zero rights. All it does is take away from Congress the power to usurp the rights you already have. And if you go down the thing, Second Amendment does not give you the right to bear arms. It says the right to bear arms shall not be infringed. Okay? There's a difference. Okay? The Founding Fathers were very good with language. Read the Declaration of Independence and you know they knew how to use words. They knew what they meant. They weren't casual with their words. So the point is, the Constitution was not written to give you and me rights. It was written to limit the power of government. So if you spend your time reading the Constitution, trying to find rights in it, you're going to read a long time, and you may find the inference of rights. You may find references to rights. But what you will find actually is tremendous limitations on the power of government. Enumerated, very specific powers, checks and balances, all kinds of stuff. And so I'm frustrated because basically people today want you, and the burden's not on you to prove you have a right. The burden's on government to prove it has the power to take that right from you. So my question would be, where does it say in our governing documents that they can put 325 million Americans under house arrest for 6 months or 6 weeks or 8 weeks? Where is that?
George, as I read through your article, let me explain this before you get insulted by what I'm about to say. But as I read through your article, it reminded me of this report that Jerry Maguire wrote at 4 a.m. where he got up and started thinking and started writing, and everybody applauded what Jerry Maguire said at that time. Do you remember that?
I don't.
For instance, you haven't. Pardon me?
I don't, but go ahead.
Yeah, it seems like you had one of these moments of conscience, and he by expressing this moment of conscience, the people who also worked in the company or owned the company Jerry Maguire worked for thought, well, Jerry now has too much conscience and we've got to get rid of him. Well, you write in your article, the founders were not afraid that we would enjoy too much freedom. They were afraid that government would exercise too much power and limit freedom too much. I love that. What a great thought.
Yeah, that's exactly it. When you read the Constitution, if you were to summarize my point in one sentence or two sentences, those would be it. Because the Constitution is about limiting the power of government, not limiting, Rick Trader's freedom. And it doesn't even give you freedom. It was designed, and I'm not saying, I think the Constitution is awesome. So but what I'm getting at is our founders believe you had these rights. They were yours. They were yours before the Constitution was written, before it was ratified, before anybody cast their first vote under its powers. The Constitution was written so as to limit government because in their experience, governments, while necessary to maintain some level of civil order so we weren't like a law of the jungle or kind of anarchy society, tended to go way too far and do far more than they needed to create that level of civil order, and instead ended up limiting people's freedom, limiting their prosperity. So they created a government a constitution was designed to stop that. And yet today, everyone asks the question as if the purpose of the Constitution was to limit my rights and to limit your rights. And it's just very frustrating because it's the wrong freaking question. And when you ask the wrong question, you will never get the right answer, even if they give you a plausible answer to the question you've asked. You've got to ask the right question if you want good information.
Right, and it's limiting what government can do to you, can take from you. I've got to ask you this question. Why do you believe the 10th Amendment is so important to our Constitution?
Well, because it settled this debate, because there were a lot of people who opposed the Bill of Rights, and not a single one of them thought that the rights listed or discussed in the first, second, third, all the way down to 10 were not important. What they were afraid of is by listing the rights, people would do exactly what they've done today, which is assume that this is a list of rights the government gives you and so forth. And that also would preclude there being other rights. In other words, we need since it doesn't say you have the right to get a haircut, if the founders wanted you to have that right, they would have put it in the Fourth Amendment. Stupid stuff like that. So the 10th Amendment was written to solve that problem. And so it literally says the power is not delegated to the United States, meaning the government, by the Constitution, nor prohibited by it to the states, meaning if in some cases the Constitution says states cannot do certain things. An example would be like regulate interstate commerce because they want to create a free trade zone in the United States. Then it says those powers are reserved to the states and the people. And I think that's important. In other words, they're saying anything we didn't discuss here, if there's blank, if you say, well, what about this? What about haircuts? Answer, it is reserved to the people.
Right.
And so I think I think it's important. This is Civics 101.
Well, George, speaking of Civics 101, we have many, many, many examples where governors, mayors, even people in Congress don't understand Civics 101. They certainly don't understand the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, or the Declaration of Independence. And in your article, you give an example that we've been talking a lot about, at least here on the Conservative Commandos radio show, when one governor was confronted with the limits placed on government power by the Bill of Rights. He stated he hadn't thought about it and that it was, quote, above his pay grade. Well, that was at Governor Phil Murphy of New Jersey. And George, he hasn't thought about it. He didn't think about it. That was above his pay grade. Wow. On how many levels is that wrong? It is in his job to figure those things out. It's things that he should have thought about taking people's rights. And when it comes
he took an oath of office for the record. He took an oath of office, and I don't know the oath of office he took, but I know it included this phrase that he has to uphold the Constitution of the United States because the Constitution requires that even state officers uphold the Constitution of the United States.
You also write in your article, and I think it sums it up wonderfully, These sorts of political leaders must be removed. They are a danger to our civil society. Sadly, today, too many Americans have such poor understanding of the Constitution or the foundational elements of freedom and liberty that we are in danger of losing it.
Yeah. I'm concerned about it because I hear so many, whether it's Facebook or Twitter, so many people seem to not grasp what's theirs, and this is dangerous. I mean, imagine, like, why do we hire? Would you hire someone at your office if you were to unretire and open one up who told you in the job interview, I do not intend to do the job you've hiring me for. I intend to ignore all the things you need me to do and want me to do. You'd say, no, okay, never mind, interview's over, thank you very much. Most politicians tell you that up front. This guy tells you, oh yeah, I didn't even think about the Constitution. It's above my pay grade. I'm sorry, dude, you're fired. You just told me you have no interest in even doing the job.
Well, that governor will be up for a contract renewal next year. Let's hope the people of New Jersey remember what he said. Hey, George, we got to take a break, and we got a few very interesting guests joining us, and we'll discuss them right after this break. But you are listening to and watching the Conservative Commandos radio show with George Landrith and yours truly, Rick Trader. And by the way, today's show, like all our shows, is brought to you by the First Amendment and protected by the Second. Think about them. They go hand in hand. George and I will be right back.
Mom, thank God you're going to be okay.
So relieved. But you both should know when my time comes, I have a final expense policy with Senior Care USA.
Is Senior Care USA the life insurance policy that helps loved ones pay for funeral expenses and other debts? Bill and I called to get more information.
Yes, and there's an immediate payout of up to $50,000.
If you're over 50, call Senior Care USA now to learn more about final expense insurance plans.
There's no medical exam, even if you have a pre-existing condition like I do. When I called, the quote was free, and there was no pressure.
I found out that policies start for as little as 35 cents a day. Rates will never increase and coverage won't decrease.
I'm going to call today.
Ask about the free prescription discount card. Oh, I'm so glad you'll be taken care of.
Call 1-800-822-7419. That's 1-800-822-7419.
But is it? It's really just the beginning, right? Have you written a book and want it published but don't know where to start? You're not alone. Page Publishing cuts through the confusion that most new authors face, like copyright protection, barcodes, printing, and digital uploading. We will get your book into bookstores now. We guide you through the publishing maze and help you distribute and sell your work in hard copy and ebook formats. That's right. We will digitize and place your book for sale on Amazon, Apple iBooks, and Google, offering it to millions. Don't waste another minute. Most publishers won't even look at new author submissions, but we're different. We review your book and provide you feedback in about a week. If we decide to publish your book, your work ends and ours begins. From copy editing and proofing to typesetting and book cover art, our team gets you into bookstores fast.
Call 1-877-461-5033.
Does your current bathroom need to be updated immediately? Introducing One Day Bath and Shower Remodeling, the complete and hassle-free way to get the new bathroom of your dreams in as little as 1 day, and for as little as $199 a month. Yes, the experts at One Day Bath and Shower Remodeling will come to you anywhere in the country and show you all the customized options. Now you can have a brand new bathroom in as little as 1 day. Large or small bathrooms, if you want a new bathtub or shower installed, we can do it in as little as 1 day. And if you call right now, you can save $750 off your remodel. We make it easy by offering you financing as low as $199 per month. So for as little as $199 a month, you can finally have the bathroom of your dreams. Call now to schedule your free in-home consultation.
And welcome back. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader. My co-host is George Landrith. And for rebroadcast of our show, maybe you'd like to watch it or listen to it again or possibly share it with a friend, well, the place to go is our website, CCRshow.com. That's CCRshow.com. And while you're there, be sure to like us, friend us, and follow us on Facebook and on Twitter. So, George Landrith, we have 2 or 3 really interesting guests joining us today.
We do. We're going to start off with Michael Pack. He is the producer, director of the recent film documentary on Clarence Thomas entitled Created Equal, Clarence Thomas in his own words. And we'll have him on. He used to work with the Claremont Institute, conservative think tank. He used to be a media executive and at Voice of America. And he's made about 15 films. So, I've seen the film, and I thought it was fabulous. In fact, actually, I've now watched it twice because it was just that good. And normally, I don't necessarily watch documentaries twice, but this was a very, very compelling story, and it was fabulous. But so I'm excited to talk with him, and I think I think we'll also have up on our screen, where you can go see it, because it was broadcast Monday earlier this week, but you can go and see it online as well. So I want to encourage everyone to see it. It's worth seeing. But I think talking also with Michael Pack is absolutely worth it. You can tell that he's not just a filmmaker; he's a bit of a little historian. So I think that'll be exciting. And then we've got Carrie Lucas. She is the president of the Independent Women's Forum, and she's co-author of 2 books that I think you might find interesting. One is called Liberty is No War on Women, and then the other one is The Politically Incorrect Guide to Women, Sex, and Feminism. So, she works, as I said, she's the president of the Independent Women's Forum. We're going to talk to her about this, Nancy Pelosi's $3 trillion, like the 13th or 14th, I'm joking about 13th or 14th, but it's at least the 4th, it might be the 5th, relief bill that she wants to pass. And she's going to talk about how it actually hurts employers and employees. It's actually not in their benefit. And we'll probably talk a little bit about some of the harm that some of these things are doing to children, education, and mothers, things that people are concerned about, childcare, that kind of stuff. It's very interesting because she is a conservative, but she also, because she runs an organization that's focused on a perspective of women, she's brought up some, I think, really interesting points. And they're important points because, you know what? Conservatism works for everybody. I know that she would agree with this idea, and that is this. Liberty is awesome, and it doesn't matter if you're a male or female.
Right. Well, I'll tell you another thing. I'll tell you what a $3 trillion, another $3 trillion stimulus bill will do. It's absolutely going to sink future generations. They will certainly not be able to live the kind of life, the way of life that we have lived, at least up to now, okay, in our country. Yeah. So again,
and I think it also, there's certain things they want to do that are just kind of nuts. Like they're building in incentives to not work, which means we'll never have a recovery. Because why would you go back to work if not going to work pays more? Mm-hmm. So you don't have to not want to.
We've seen examples.
Yeah. How does that work?
We've seen examples of this. There was a spa owner in Atlanta who got one of the government packages. Okay, and she was very excited, and she couldn't wait to tell her employees about it. Well, her employees were actually angry at her because she had gotten this business bailout package, and they were going to have to go to work. Because the way they figured it, they were going to make more not working than working. So they were mad at her,
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible.
And that's not sustainable. So someone say, oh, what's the problem with getting extra money for a while? The answer is it's not sustainable to have people choosing to stay home and watch television rather than work and do productive things. A nation cannot long survive as if that's your economic plan. But that's Nancy Pelosi's economic plan, and it's going to crash and burn.
Well, George, talking about Nancy Pelosi's economic plan, you wrote another article. COVID-19 is real, but some of the bailout demands are as phony as a $3 bill.
Yeah. So obviously, the virus, the Chinese virus, was shipped to the U.S. and around the globe by China, and it's a real disease. I mean, people are getting sick and people are dying from it. But the political response to this, has been kind of curious, and I would argue that some of the demands for bailouts are absolutely phony. To just give it, and the one I kind of write about is the idea that we should get the Postal Service has been asking for $93 billion in different times, and at one point, if you add up all the numbers, but their most recent request is for $85 billion, and they've been losing money now for more than 13 consecutive years. But all of a sudden now, all their troubles are because of COVID, when in fact they should be making more money now because they've been sending more packages, and they tell us, this is not true, but they tell us they make money delivering packages and that it's a very profitable business for them. But curiously, the more they ship these packages, the more money they lose. What does that tell you?
It's a failing, losing operation.
Yeah.
And they don't know where they make money at. They don't know what or how they make money. And George, if the Postal Service was any other business, they would be out of business. I've said in jest, and the more I say it in jest, the more I'm starting to believe it. I think the Postal Authority should be turned over to Walmart, or maybe Amazon, or maybe UPS, or maybe FedEx. Those businesses know how to make money. Those businesses know how to at least deliver parcels and make money. Why can they not deliver the mail and make money? Or at least relieve the taxpayer the burden of paying for a losing, failing operation.
It's an interesting point. And of course, I don't go quite that far in my article because my article just focuses on making sure we don't give this money to the Postal Service because it's just nutty. And then the other thing that frustrates me is which goes to the point you just made, which is the Postal Service has a government-granted monopoly on first-class mail. And so that they make a lot of money on that one. And then they use the profits from that to cross-pollinate other things that they do, which they lose money on. And the problem is because they've been, because first-class mail is becoming a less important way, because we don't mail as many letters to our friends and neighbors, we just email them and so forth. So they're doing less of that business. So they're making less profits, but they're not losing money. They're making money, they just aren't delivering, So it's still a profitable business, but not profitable enough to support all the garbage and other stuff they're trying to do. And so they want the taxpayers to come in and pick up the tab for them. And I guess my question is if you were a business and the government set up a monopoly, and then that monopoly started trying to compete with you in non-monopoly business, using its monopoly profits to try to bury you, wouldn't you be kind of annoyed by that and ask yourself, is this the correct use of taxpayer money and government power is to put my employees at risk, to drive the wages of my employees down? It's just kind of weird. I mean, so everyone acts like it's some, we need to look at, we'll look at from the post office vantage point. How about from people who actually do other, real business? How about from their vantage point? There was a time when the post office wanted to get involved in banking. There's a time when they wanted to get involved in selling electronics like Best Buy, little kiosks at their post office. It's like, why can't you just deliver the damn mail? Why do you have to compete with everybody? What's next, hamburgers and french fries?
Well, I think they should compete. And when I mean by compete, I don't mean compete with Best Buy or McDonald's, but I mean it's just common sense. When there is a monopoly on something, when an organization has a monopoly on something, you're not going to get the best service.
Or the best price.
Sure. I mean, just look at cable TV today. In many communities, you basically will have a choice of Peter or Paul. All right, one or the other. For instance, where I'm at, it's either Verizon or Comcast. And you know what? They know they got you by the you-know-whats, and their service is poor, and their prices are high, I've always said if there was more competition among cable TV, prices would be lower and the products would be better. But they're not. They're basically a monopoly there. I mean, look at the phone companies. I can remember a time when you had a deal with one phone company. They charged you basically what they wanted to charge you. That the rates were set. Okay, if you wanted to make a telephone call, you were going to pay their rate, 25 cents a minute or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. Today, I don't know anybody that pays to make a phone call. You know, my gosh, you can go on a computer and make a phone call for free. I have a phone. I pay $30 a month for it. I get just about unlimited use out of this thing. Okay. My gosh, it's a flip phone. It's great, by the way. You want to see how antiquated I am? It's a flip phone. I love my flip phone. But anyway, it just goes to give you an example. I would say the number of people that have an a landline telephone today is probably 50%. It's definitely not what it used to be in the past. Well, consumers have options today that they didn't have when it was just Ma Bell.
Well, but the Postal Service is a government-granted and government-enforced monopolist.
Yeah. Hey, George, let's take another break and let's get our first guest on. We're going to be speaking with Michael Pack. He's the producer, director, filmmaker, and the creator of the Clarence Thomas movie, Clarence Thomas, in his own words, highly recommended by one George Landrith. Don't go away. We'll be back with our guest right after this break.
Attention homeowners, do you have a house that's in need of serious repairs? Do you have tenants that never seem to make their monthly payments? How about code violations, past due taxes, or maintenance costs you just can't afford? Then call my friends right now at Quick Cash Offer. They specialize in buying any home, no matter how ugly the situation. Turn that problem property into cash right now. It's just that simple. One call and you can get rid of that home headache forever. They buy the ugliest houses with instant closings, instant cash, and huge savings. Plus, there are no realtor fees, no listing fees, and no repair costs. Just cash in your hands for that painful property. They're buying a few more houses in your neighborhood this month. So take advantage of this cash offer and call Quick Cash Offer now.
855-296-8854. 855-296-8854. That's 855-296-8854.
Listen carefully. If your student loan debt is overwhelming you and things seem hopeless, we've got great news.
If you're still struggling with your student loan debt, there are government programs available that may actually lower your payments by consolidating your federal student loans. Just call us. We'll review your situation and work with you to consolidate your debt. In many cases, depending on your situation, we can lower your monthly payments in half or more. It doesn't matter how much you owe or how far behind you are. Even if you're in default, call us right now to find out how we can lower your payment in half immediately. You can stop the harassing phone calls and the wage garnishments. All you need to do is pick up the phone and call us right now. We can remove your default status, consolidate your federal student loans, lower your payments, and we can do it today. Stop worrying. This is a real solution that can help. So please call us right now.
Call 800-917-8671.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you and all seniors from the Final Expense Insurance Hotline. The average funeral costs about $7,000, even more. And the most government benefits will pay your family is only $255. That leaves your loved ones with a burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay up to $30,000 for your funeral and other final expenses. There's no medical exam and you'll have lifetime coverage. Plus, your rates will never increase and your plan cannot be canceled regardless of your medical condition, as long as you make your premium payments. Get free information right now. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 855-221-7334.
Do you have an idea for an invention, but you don't know what to do next?
How do you get in front of companies or get a patent?
Call InventHelp. They've been helping inventors just like you for 35 years.
And thousands of people contact them every month.
With 65 offices, you can meet with an InventHelp representative near you who will keep your idea confidential and explain their invention process step by step. InventHelp has helped over 10,000 inventors get patents. And they offer 3D animations and prototyping services to help demonstrate your idea. InventHelp's exclusive databank includes over 9,000 companies who have agreed to confidentially review new ideas, like yours.
Don't wonder what to do next. Take action right now and get the help you need from InventHelp.
InventHelp. Call today for free information.
800-880-2937. That's 800-880-2937 now.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos, the radio show and the television show. Thanks to the Conservative Commandos radio network, the AUN TV network. We truly are everywhere. And if you happen to be where there is no broadcast tower, never fear. Al Gore's amazing internet will bring us to you nonetheless, unless probably you're in China, North Korea, or Iran, where they don't really have much use for freedom. But, everywhere else, we're there. I'm George Landrith with Rick Trader. We're your co-host today. We're glad you're here with us. This truly is the place to be. I do want to remind you, if you want to rebroadcast of our show, check out our website, ccrshow.com. I am very pleased to introduce Michael Pack. Now, he is a producer, he's a filmmaker, a director. He's been a media executive with Voice for America. He's run a think tank, or been heavily involved in a think tank at the Clarence Institute. They do great work there, and he's made over 15 movies or films that were broadcast on PBS and TLC. So with that. Well, maybe I should say, before I say welcome, I should say that one of the reasons he's on is because the most recent movie was Created Equal, Clarence Thomas in his own words, which if you haven't seen that, you need to see it. I've been a fan of his for a long time. I met him many years ago. I've read his opinions. I thought I knew a lot about him. Last night, I learned so much more about him, and I'm now dissatisfied with the photograph on my office wall of him and I together because it's not nearly large enough. It was a fabulous, fabulous movie. So with that, now I will welcome Michael Pack to the Conservative Commandos.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. And thank you for those kind words about the film.
Oh, they weren't kind words. They're accurate words. I have to say, I kind of, when I first read about it, I thought, okay, so it's going to be kind of an interview, him talking about his life. I thought it'll be interesting because he's an interesting person, but I really kind of thought it would come across as an interview. And while there is footage of him talking in an interview format, you wove together a fabulous story that just tells the story of his life. And so as a result, it had the feel of a movie. It was really amazing how you did that. If I'd done it, it just would have been him talking into a microphone, and it would have been as interesting as he was. But you really did just a fabulous job of telling the story. And I think that's the beauty of a good filmmaker is there are powerful stories to be told, and you told one very powerful story.
Well, thank you very much. That is a challenge. Once you pick this form, Clarence Thomas in his own words, the challenge is to make it a film and not just a long interview. So, first we had to pick that form, and I picked it because he has a very complicated life story, as you said, and a wonderful life story coming from dire poverty in the Deep South, in the segregated South, to the highest court in the land through many twists and turns. So I was originally going to tell that story through, 30 or so interviews plus Clarence Thomas, but then I realized his voice would get drowned out. If just tracking down the many views on the Anita Hill, Clarence Thomas part of the confirmation would be a film in and of itself. So I wanted him to tell a story. He is a great storyteller. He has a wonderful voice. And I wanted him to look right at camera, right at the viewer, and tell them what it was like to experience his life from the beginning up to today. So that was the form we picked, but you're right. The challenge in that form is to get away from just the talking heads. So you've got to do other things. So we did as much as we could to make it an actual film, and I am really happy, George, that you appreciated that. I mean, it is a lot of work. It's hard to explain to viewers who haven't seen it, but there's a lot of other material, from untraditional reenactments to stock footage to still photos to archival video, and I think it does move as a film. I think it does. I appreciate your comment there, and it's helped by the fact that he has a great story that has a clear arc with many dramatic twists and turns. But the focus was on storytelling, so I'm glad you appreciated it.
Absolutely. Like I said, I only have two beefs with the photo with it. One, it made me dissatisfied with my photograph on the wall, and two, at the end of the 2 hours, I was disappointed it was over, and I thought to myself, why does it have to end right now? Come on. So that's a sign of a good film, I think, because I wasn't complaining that it was incomplete and needed more. I was just saying this was fabulous. We ought to, why it's kind of like when you're having a wonderful time and you don't want it to end. That's kind of how I felt.
Well, I do think you do get the feeling of spending 2 hours with one of the most brilliant men with one of the most powerful life stories in America. So there's that at one level. But I am anxious to get the film into 2 hours. I think it should be such that someone could see it in one sitting. I have lots of friends who make
that's a very good point.
Long documentary series, 6 hours, 10 hours, Ken Burns, 20 hours. I think it's good for people to see it at one sitting and go on with the rest of their lives. I mean, it's got a powerful story, but it's my responsibility as a filmmaker to condense it.
Right.
Only by it being condensed that you can get a sense of its beginning, middle, and end, and its movements, where its drama comes from.
You make a very good point. Sometimes, having the editor's mind actually makes it more powerful. The example of that might be Lincoln's Gettysburg Address. You couldn't cut out too many words in that before you just start doing violence to it, because it's so brief but so powerful. And so I think you found the right balance there, because like I said, I didn't feel like you gave it a cursory treatment at all. But I have to be honest, I was disappointed when the credits started to not because there was anything wrong with it. I just wanted, it was just so great. It's kind of like, and I'm going to watch it again. I want to, because it was just too powerful to watch once, in my opinion. You might tell I'm very excited about the movie just because it was fabulous. And it was an amazing story to watch a fellow who grew up with very traditional values and then saw so much injustice and horrible things and people who should have done something about it who didn't do something about it. And at some point that pushed him into a certain level of radicalism. And then he, one day caught himself and realized, wait a minute, this isn't really who I am, and this is, not where I want to be, and I don't think it's even where God wants me to be. It was just a powerful, moving story. And then there's this kind of odd transition, almost, from, like he describes when he got his first job with a Republican. And, it was just this, the flow was an amazing story. And it really helped me appreciate him. And it also helps me appreciate kind of his opinions better now, because now I understand why he can write with such ferocity, because his response is, I've been on all sides of this issue at different times of my life.
Well, that's right.
I used to be the radical.
That's right. Having gone through this period of radicalism, his angry black man phase, where, as he said, the more in your face the person was, the more they supported him, from Angela Davis and H. Rap Brown to Malcolm X, and to feel race and racism explain everything, and to then and be, as he said, a black radical, and find the hollowness of those views, lets him understand where that rage comes from in other people and where their views come from. That I think is very true. Justice Thomas's view of the world comes so much out of his life that you can tell his life story and communicate that, and that's another great thing. Not true necessarily for everybody equally. So that was another asset that I had as a filmmaker, and something that does make it a powerful story.
One of the things I want to make sure folks know is that you've got a website for the movie, justicethomasmovie.com, and there they can follow it, because my assumption, it was such a powerful movie, and I've read so many great reviews in places I wouldn't expect to. Time Magazine and the Washington Post. And when I see a good review, a national review, I kind of go, yeah, I expect that. But not the Washington Post, not Time Magazine. And so, I would expect that it'll be run again. I hope people will contact their local PBS station and demand it be run again. But so justicethomasmovie.com would be a good place to go. But tell us more about we're almost out of time on this segment.
Oh, okay.
But I'm glad you can stick around because there's more to talk about. But make sure you tell us some of these websites. We can do it again at the end. But I want people to at least have a chance to jot it down.
Well, if they go to justicethomasmovie.com, as you just said, they can also see the trailer. They can sign up for our newsletter, so we will let them know when it's going to be available via streaming or DVD. And they can find out more about the film. And they can find our Facebook and Twitter info there, too. And also, they can, if they're interested in other films that I and my company have made, they can go to manifoldproductions.com, where we have the trailers for all of our films, and all the other ones are available for purchase, but via DVD purchase, and some for streaming. So they can do that. And as you say, PBS has the right to run it again. Maybe they will. It's hard to say. Yesterday was the national broadcast where they all did it. Now each station is sort of making up its own mind. But I'm hoping it'll have a long life. And we should maybe talk about this in the next segment. But beyond that, we hope to get it into schools.
Oh, very good. Well, as I said, we are up against the break, and sometimes the clock is a cruel taskmaster, but fortunately, we have another segment with you, and I appreciate you being generous with your time. But I do want to remind our viewers and our listeners, this is the Conservative Commandos. I'm George Landrith with Rick Trader. We will be right back with more from Michael Pack after these messages. Don't forget our website, ccrshow.com, and don't go away.
Are you a veteran and are you a homeowner? Then think Streamline and maybe save yourself a few $100s every month on your mortgage. A VA Streamline Refinance. It's called a rate reduction loan because mortgage interest reduction is exactly what it does. It's just for veterans and it lowers your mortgage rate so you can save on mortgage payments every month, every year. That's a lot of money saved. And it's so easy to qualify. You don't need pay stubs, a W-2, or bank statements. You don't need a home appraisal. It's fast and easy to apply. And mortgage interest rates are very low right now. So a VA Streamline Refinance makes it super easy and super affordable to take advantage of this opportunity and really cut your monthly mortgage payments. Veteran and homeowner? Call us to find out more. 888-893-7491. 888-893-7491.
Do you have an idea for an invention, but you don't know what to do next?
How do you get in front of companies or get a patent?
Call InventHelp. They've been helping inventors just like you for 35 years.
And thousands of people contact them every month.
With 65 offices, you can meet with an InventHelp representative near you who will keep your idea confidential and explain their invention process step by step. InventHelp has helped over 10,000 inventors get patents. And they offer 3D animations and prototyping services to help demonstrate your idea. InventHelp's exclusive databank includes over 9,000 companies who have agreed to confidentially review new ideas, like yours.
Don't wonder what to do next. Take action right now and get the help you need from InventHelp.
InventHelp. Call today for free information.
800-880-2937. That's 800-880-2937 now.
Is your credit card debt driving you batty?
We're going up! Just like your credit card fees and interest rates. To the top! With those sky-high payments! You can't forget about your debt. Always fear! The debt suckers are here!
Are your payments sucking the life out of you? Just one call to Consolidated Credit can get the debt suckers off your back. Consolidated Credit will lower your interest rates, consolidate your bills into one easy payment, and get you out of debt fast. Call Call Consolidated Credit and get your life back.
Call 1-800-201-8213. 1-800-201-8213. That's 1-800-201-8213. 1-800-201-8213.
When debt is the problem, Consolidated Credit is the solution.
Because debt sucks!
Attention Viagra and Cialis users. Are prescription drugstore prices too costly? Get 50 generic pills for only $99. That's right, 50 100 milligram generic Viagra for only $99. Our products have the same active ingredients as the brand name products. Money back guaranteed if you're 100% not satisfied. Get 50 generic pills for only $99. Order now and call the number on your screen. Have your credit card ready.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos, the radio show and the television show carried on the Conservative Commandos radio network, broadcast all across this great nation, and the AUN TV network as well. We're glad you're here. Remember that our website, ccrshow.com, is always available for more information, for rebroadcast, whatever you want. We have been talking with Michael Pack. He is a producer, a director, a filmmaker, a powerful storyteller. He's been an executive at Voice for America, or Voice of America. He's also worked in the think tank world at the Claremont Institute. We've been talking about his most recent work, one that I thought was incredibly powerful, Created Equal, Clarence Thomas in his own words. And I can assure you, while there's lots of Clarence Thomas in his own words, it's not just an interview. Michael Pack and his team did a great job of telling a story. So I want to, Michael, now basically ask you if you wouldn't mind sharing with us, at least verbally. I know you don't have all the elements of a filmmaker available to you at this moment, but tell us the story of Clarence Thomas.
I think that's a good idea. I mean, I hope it doesn't discourage your viewers and listeners from seeing it, but I think they'll see the real complexity of it. I mean, he was born in Pinpoint, Georgia, a Gullah-speaking area on the coast of Georgia. So English not even really his first language. In dire poverty, his father left before he could remember. And then when he was about 6 or 7 years old, his mother moved him and his brother to Savannah, whereas he said he went from rural poverty to urban squalor. And there in Savannah, he experienced real poverty. He was hungry. He didn't actually have a bed. He had to sleep in a chair. He didn't have enough to eat. He was cold in the winter. When his mother dropped him off at school, he'd just leave and wander the streets of Savannah. No one cared. So it was really real poverty, aimless drift. And after a couple years of that, his mother, who was working as a maid, realized she couldn't take care of her 2 kids and brought them to her father, his grandfather, to raise. And that's what turned Justice Thomas's life around the first time, really. His grandfather had a small home heating oil business, and he had a house that he built himself out of cinder blocks he made himself, and he gave Justice Thomas and his brother discipline, hard work, traditional values, biblical values. He had all these sayings like, "Old man Kant is dead, I helped bury him." They had to work from sun to sun. And although his grandfather was himself, had less than a year's education, was functionally illiterate, he believed in education. He was a Catholic, a very rare thing for an African-American man in the South, especially, the segregated South of Georgia. And he sent Justice Thomas and his brother to parochial schools, then all black, run by these Irish nuns. And they gave Justice Thomas a great education, more hard work, and he thrived in that environment so much so that he wanted to become a priest, not something not everybody knows about Justice Thomas. So he went to these all-white seminaries. He was one of the first to desegregate them. And there he experienced racism on the part of these whites, really for the first time. And it was the mid-60s by now, the late 60s. He was feeling the church wasn't doing enough for civil rights anyway. But it reached a peak when he was watching TV in 1968, the day Martin Luther King Jr. was shot. And one of the white seminarians said, "I hope that son of a bitch dies." And that was really so shocking, as it is to us too, that he really lost his vocation. He went through this period that we discussed in the earlier segment of being an angry black man, and suddenly he felt race and racism explained everything. And he went home and told his grandfather, his only effective father, who then kicked him out of the house and told him now that he's making his own choices, he's on his own. He had to go wherever he had a full scholarship, which was Holy Cross in Worcester, Massachusetts. And there is where he had his black radical period. He helped form the Black Student Union there. They got a Black Panther to come speak. They engaged in a student walkout. And so he was a traditional black radical of the time. Those of us of a certain age remember it well. And it was, as we talked a little bit in the earlier segment, it was only by sort of hitting a kind of bottom that he turned back towards both his faith and the values of his grandfather. The real seminal event for him, the first one really, was when he was at an anti-war rally in Cambridge that turned into a riot, and he felt himself getting caught up in the madness of the crowd and the violence, and he saw what he had become, and he hated it. And then when he returned to Holy Cross, well after midnight, the chapel was long closed, but he knelt in front of the chapel and said to God, "If you will take anger out of my heart, I will never hate again." And that was the beginning of his journey back to both faith and then also politically. A whole series of things happened over the next 10 or so years of his life that made him come back to what he thought of as the traditional values of his grandfather and the nuns. You know, he learned he felt affirmative action was failing and busing was failing, and many of these radical ideas were failing. And he became gradually more conservative up to the point where he could work for and vote for Ronald Reagan in 1980. And that was the beginning of his public persona, after which he was attacked by the left, who hated him from then on, reaching a peak in the Anita Hill, Clarence Thomas confirmation hearing, which we could also talk about, and then his many years on the court. And the attacks on him have not ceased to this day. So it's just a complicated life story. Very hard to get it into 2 hours. There's a lot to tell. And I hate always to summarize it. I don't think I do justice to the story at all. You say I'm a good storyteller, but it's much easier to do it on film for me than orally. I think you lose everything not having Justice Thomas tell it.
Well, I don't know that I agree you lose everything, but I think, obviously you're able to use more senses when you have a film, and so it's a more powerful medium, I suppose, than just the voice. But nonetheless, really powerful stuff. Do you want to just kind of? I thought the section that was on the confirmation hearing was very powerful.
Right. I think it is very powerful to experience as he did. I mean, and a lot of us don't even remember the details. It was a long time ago. And then, of course, young people hardly remember at all. They all assume that there's an assault charge in there, whereas, in fact, Anita Hill had claimed that Justice Thomas talked to her about pornography. It was inappropriate words in their office. No one would disagree that it's sexual harassment. They agree. The question is whether it happened. But by the standards of the current Me Too movement, it looks sort of mild. But yes, so Justice Thomas, the way he experienced it, as he tells it, I mean, there was a long first part of the hearing that in memory we perhaps all forget. He had prepared all summer. He was grilled by the Senate Judiciary Committee for a week. Tough questions. The Senate was then in the hands of the Democrats. Joe Biden was chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee. And the focus was, and he was attacked. There were protests already about him. All the women's movement people were up in arms. There was, as you said earlier to me, a woman who said we have to go out and bork him right away. And so it was already vicious. And Senator Biden and others tried to get him to say something about Roe and what he thought of, what he thought of abortion. And there were myths circulating about him, like he's an anti-Semite or he had a Confederate flag. So he had to do all this fighting and all this testifying. And when it was over, the Senate Judiciary Committee voted 7-7. They split, which was enough to send it on to the Senate for a vote. And Justice Thomas and his wife figured, thank God that's over. They went off to relax. And then, boom, Anita Hill's charges were leaked to the...
Which is a crime.
Tuesday. Right, a crime to leak her actual FBI material, which seems to have been leaked. And so then, as he said, it's like you've finished one marathon, you relax, and then you're told you've got to run another. And so for them, it was entering a surreal universe, a different kind of space. And we try to give a portrait of that, Kafkaesque, he calls it. And as Ginny, his wife, said, there was just nothing left of him. He was spent. So they had to really rely on their faith to get them through. They huddled at home with prayer partners. They really turned inward. And, after Anita Hill testified, Justice Thomas was sort of couched to not give the high-tech lynching speech. After all, at that time, people would say, well, you want these senators to vote for you, maybe you shouldn't attack them. But by then, for Justice Thomas, it was really about defending his honor. In his mind, it was defending the values his grandfather and these Irish nuns taught him. And it wasn't about winning, and he came out and he just spoke from his heart and called it a high-tech lynching and a disgrace, and in very powerful emotional terms. And in fact, that turned the country around. There were 2-1 in his favor, including women, including African Americans.
Our time's about up, but I want to make sure you have the opportunity to, again, tell folks where they can get more information about the movie so they can watch it. If they haven't already, they can rewatch it if they have. But also the other things that you've done. So make sure you give us all things Michael Pack.
Well, thank you. First, they can go to the film's website, justicethomasmovie.com. They can see the trailer. They can sign up for a newsletter, and that'll let them know when it's available for purchase via DVD or streaming. And they can see reviews and other material about it. They can log on to our Facebook or Twitter feeds. And if they're interested in other things, Michael Pack, they can go to the Manifold Productions website, manifoldproductions.com, where all of our other films are listed. There are trailers for most of them. They're all available for purchase, some via streaming. And I think the others are great, too. I mean, we have films on politics, on culture, founding fathers, Alexander Hamilton, George Washington, the Rodney King incident, a biography of Admiral Rickover, who built the nuclear navy and the first nuclear power plant. I mean, a lot of great American stories and a lot of political stories that I think would interest your listeners and viewers.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you for your time. Thank you for making this wonderful movie. Really appreciate it. To our listeners, don't go away. The Conservative Commandos will be right back.
Everybody wants cheap airfare, but where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America. And get this, did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The secret war is yours, free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show. I'm Rick Trader. My co-host is George Landrith, and want to give a shout out to folks who listen to us on radio stations in Jacksonville, Tampa, and the Villages, Florida, Las Vegas and Reno, Macon, Georgia, Lancaster and Pittsburgh, Boulder and Colorado Springs, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Long Beach, California, Arlington, Virginia, Washington, D.C., but most notably seen on the AUN television network in places like San Francisco, Sacramento, San Jose, Silicon Valley, wine country, all the way up to Redding, and very soon in Reno and Carson City. And George, well, the one thing that Michael Flynn, the unmasking of this terrible escapade that Michael Flynn has had to go through, has had to endure, was it's kind of given us something to talk about other than the Chinese virus. But Michael Flynn's exoneration will turn an American tragedy into a triumph. Your opinion, George Landrith?
I agree with that. I mean, I know some people, President Obama said it was unprecedented. He went to law school. He's a graduate of Harvard. We're told that he's one of the most intelligent people on the planet. So he should have known this, because they cover this in the first year of law school. And that is, if you are a prosecutor, you're an officer of the court, and you have an obligation that if you come across information that exonerates the defendant, and you become pretty sure that the evidence proves they're not guilty, you need to stop the prosecution. And if you continue the prosecution out of blind pride or something else, you're violating the law, the Constitution, and your code of ethics. And so it seems to me it's very clear at this point that, because they keep saying things like, well, but he lied to the FBI. Well, no, he didn't. That's Boulderdash. The people who interviewed him in their notes said he didn't lie to them. What happened later was, 6 months later, the FBI went in and changed their notes. Not the people who did the interview, however, other people, because they wanted to get the man. And so they made strategic changes to the notes. Oh, and incidentally, those are now missing. They're not available any longer. They've disappeared. So, so this stinks to high heaven. And these people were corrupt. The FBI was essentially a bunch of dirty cops, the people involved in all this. Just dirty, filthy cops. And, they were just, so the point is, and sure, did he finally say, I'll plead guilty? Yes, he did. He finally said, I'll plead guilty, because they said he'd already spent about, I think it was, if I recall correctly, it was several $1 million in attorney's fees. He'd had to sell his home. He was facing bankruptcy. And then they said they're going to go after his son too. So finally he just throws up his hand and says, I'll plead guilty. And they said they would suggest no jail time. And that would be like, okay, fine. This is a deal. I got to end this before I, bleed to death. So, and people act like he wouldn't plead guilty if he wasn't guilty. And it's like, I actually know people who have, under similar circumstances, done the exact same thing. They pled guilty to something minor just to get the bleeding to stop because of abusive prosecutors. This is the way they do business at the DOJ. It's why we need someone like Mr. Barr there to get things turned around, because the place is corrupt.
What do you make about Bill Barr and his statement that he does not see investigations or prosecutions into Barack Obama or Joe Biden?
I didn't understand him to say he didn't see investigations. I thought he was saying there wouldn't be prosecutions yet based on anything he knew. And I think that's actually fine. What I mean by that is, I wouldn't want him to sound like he was cheerleading for a prosecution, because he's supposed to be just about the facts. You want a prosecutor, a chief prosecutor, who says, I'm not gunning for anybody, I'm just following the facts where they take me. And right now, he said, I am not personally aware of any facts that would justify us trying to prosecute these two high formerly high, elected officials. But I didn't get the impression he was trying to say we wouldn't do it. If the facts change, I think he will change his mind. I would have been uncomfortable if he'd said, I'm sure they're guilty of something and we're going to find out what it is. And we won't rest until we get them. It's like, yeah, that sounds like what the current FBI does, which is,
right.
So to me, he was trying to set up a clear delineation, which is, we are going to do justice here. I don't yet have any facts that suggest that I have to put the former president in jail, so I'm not going to promise you that. And I thought that was good, actually. I'm not saying that I think that he thinks or that I think that Barack Obama did nothing wrong. He's just basically signaling we don't know all this yet. We're still doing the research, and I'm not going to sound and I'm not going to send a message to the public that I am, cheerleading on the side for getting the guy. Because you really don't want a prosecutor whose goal is to get you. You want a prosecutor's goal is to follow the facts.
All right.
I don't know.
George,
does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I want to do a little connect the dots with you, if you don't mind, George.
Sure.
And talking about unmasking requests, and we discussed this yesterday on the Conservative Commandos radio show with former acting Attorney General Matthew Whitaker, and also with Congressman Bob Barr. But I wanted to also discuss this with you. Unmasking requests are rare. They involve the invasion of America's Fourth Amendment rights against unreasonable search and seizure. That acting director of national intelligence, Ambassador Richard Grenell, declassified names of 39 high-ranking Obama administration officials who urgently sought a masking request between, and get these dates, November 8th, 2016 and January 12th, 2016. Now, starting 2 days after the presidential election, when Donald Trump won, leading up to just a few days before his inauguration. George, get this list of people. I'm going to give you a list of names. The list includes 7 unmasking requests from UN Representative and former White House official Samantha Powers. 7 unmasking requests from Samantha Powers. 3 from Obama Director of National Intelligence James Clapper. 2 by CIA Director and former White House official John Brennan. 2 by Obama Secretary of the Treasury and former White House Chief of Staff Jacob Lowe. 1 by Sarah Ruskin, Deputy Secretary
the White House
of the
Chief of Staff.
Right.
Yeah.
One from former FBI Director James Comey. 1 from Obama's Chief of Staff Dennis McDonough. 2 from aides from Clapper. 29 others, including 5 redacted names, and 1 from Vice President Joe Biden. Now, these were unmasking requests. But isn't it amazing? Can you connect the dots that all these people that I have named, these 7, are what? They have very close ties to the Barack Obama administration. Can you connect the dots here, George Landrith?
Oh, absolutely. So some people.
George, let me just say one other thing.
Mm-hmm.
When the mafia made a hit, it was never the Godfather that pulled the trigger, was it?
Never.
It was always somebody who worked for him.
And there was
so
never.
Let me ask you.
Yeah.
So with this being said, I have a few questions. Since unmasking is a non-political process and rare, which do you think 8 Obama White House members invaded the privacy? Why do you think that 8 members of the Obama White House members invaded the privacy of incoming Trump officials? That's number 1. What do you believe their motives were? That's 2. Do you find it ironic that all these requests came from people on the inner circle of Barack Obama? And lastly, what were they looking for?
So,
hey, George, you know what? We are up against the break, but we'll take the break and I'll re-ask that question on the other side if you don't mind.
Absolutely.
I just noticed the time here, and I'm sure you're going to want time to answer answered those 4 questions I had. And this is the Conservative Commandos radio show with George Landrith and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you from the studios of the Conservative Commandos radio network. George and I will be back, and he'll answer those questions right after this break.
Mom, thank God you're going to be okay.
So relieved. But you both should know when my time comes, I have a final expense policy with Senior Care USA.
Is Senior Care USA the life insurance policy that helps loved ones pay for funeral expenses and other debts? Bill and I called to get more information.
Yes, and there's an immediate payout of up to $50,000.
If you're over 50, call Senior Care USA now to learn more about final expense insurance plans.
There's no medical exam, even if you have a pre-existing condition like I do. When I called, the quote was free, and there was no pressure.
I found out that policies start for as little as 35 cents a day. Rates will never increase and coverage won't decrease.
I'm going to call today.
Ask about the free prescription discount card. Oh, I'm so glad you'll be taken care of.
Call 1-800-822-7419. That's 1-800-822-7419.
But is it? It's really just the beginning, right? Have you written a book and want it published but don't know where to start? You're not alone. Page Publishing cuts through the confusion that most new authors face, like copyright protection, barcodes, printing, and digital uploading. We will get your book into bookstores now. We guide you through the publishing maze and help you distribute and sell your work in hard copy and ebook formats. That's right. We will digitize and place your book for sale on Amazon, Apple iBooks, and Google, offering it to millions. Don't waste another minute. Most publishers won't even look at new author submissions, but we're different. We review your book and provide you feedback in about a week. If we decide to publish your book, your work ends and ours begins. From copy editing and proofing to typesetting and book cover art, our team gets you into bookstores fast.
Call 1-877-461-5033.
Does your current bathroom need to be updated immediately? Introducing one-day bath and shower remodeling. The complete and hassle-free way to get the new bathroom of your dreams in as little as 1 day. And for as little as $1.99 a month. Yes, the experts at One Day Bath and Shower Remodeling will come to you anywhere in the country and show you all the customized options. Now you can have a brand new bathroom in as little as 1 day. Large or small bathrooms, if you want a new bathtub or shower installed, we can do it in as little as 1 day. And if you call right now, you can save $750 off your remodel. We make it easy by offering you financing as low as $199 per month. So for as little as $199 a month, you can finally have the bathroom of your dreams. Call now to schedule your free in-home consultation.
And once again, welcome back. Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with George Landrith and yours truly, Rick Trader. And once again, for rebroadcasts of our shows, check out that website of ours, ccrshow.com. That's ccrshow.com. Well, George, before we went to the break, I asked you about unmasking. And I'll pose these questions again to you. Since unmasking is a non-political process and rare, why do you think 8 Obama White House members invaded the privacy of incoming Trump officials? 2, what do you believe was their motive? 3, do you find it ironic that all these requests, these 39 requests, came from people on the inner circle of Barack Obama? And 4, what do you think they were looking for?
So I'll start with this premise. If you want to know what the Democrats are guilty of, look at what they're accusing you of. So what did they accuse the president for? In fact, impeached him for, supposedly, was that he was trying to use government power to disadvantage a political adversary. Now, he didn't do that, But what we now know is Barack Obama and his administration were absolutely doing that. So let me just quickly address a couple things. Whether or not it's rare or not depends on kind of how you look at the numbers. Because the left has spent a lot of time pointing out that, that was 16,000 unmaskings in this year and 17,000 in this year. That sounds like a lot, but when you have a staff of 500 intelligence agents who are spending 24/7 going through transcripts of information, and they're supposed to, when they see something that maybe flags something, they're supposed to then ask to unmask it because they're listening to phone conversations with Al-Qaeda agents and other people like that. You can get to 16,000 pretty easily, obviously. But that's not the issue. What is rare, as I see it, is the president's inner circle asking to unmask people during the transition period. I think that's very unusual. Because my guess is someone winked and told them who the conversation was, so they wanted it unmasked so it could be leaked, because we know for a fact it was leaked the same day, interestingly, that the White House had a little powwow to discuss the very topic of this. Jim Comey was there, Barack Obama was there, Susan Rice was there, the vice president was there, several other, Clapper, all the usual suspects. All the dirty dogs, they were all there. All the liars, all the perjurers, they were all there. And then, of course, what did they say to Congress? I don't know what you're talking about. What? She sends that goofy email. That same day, shockingly, someone went to the Washington Post, or maybe it was Slate, I can't remember. It was some liberal publication, and leaked the contents of the intelligence report, supposedly. Selectively leaked it because it wasn't fully accurate. And what's interesting is that is a felony for which you can get 10 years in prison.
Right.
So it's not like a technicality like, you really shouldn't have done that, so we're going to give you a $5 parking fee. No, when you punish something with a 10-year prison sentence, it's a big freaking deal. And that's what was going on. That's what these people are doing. And they are filthy cops, every last one of them. They violated the law, they violated the Constitution, and now they're just lying about it. Just lying.
These dates are very suspicious to me. These unmasking requests came between the dates, as I said, November 8th, 2016, 2 days after the election, up to and including January 12th of 2016, just a few days before the inauguration. When they said it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's generally a duck. Looking at these dates of when these unmasking requests were made, I really do think it was somebody within the inner circle of the White House. I have no proof of this. I'm just speculating. I'm just throwing it out there.
It's not wild speculation, however. It's actually pretty reasonable.
Well, I think that what they were actually trying to do was stop the inauguration of a duly elected president.
Yeah. No, I think that's, to me, I understand you don't have a memo to file that says what we're trying to do is do that. But what we do have is a goofy as all get out email from Susan Rice to herself on the day before the inauguration. Or maybe it was hours before the inauguration. It was right before the inauguration, in which she emails to herself and talks about the meeting that we now know took place, and says, of course, that we did it all by the book and Barack wanted it that way. My question is, what book? Was it Rules for Radicals? Because it sure as hell wasn't the FBI's book. It wasn't the Constitution. It wasn't the U.S. Code. It surely wasn't any of those things. So, bottom line is, when someone's writing an email to self on the way out the door saying, and by the way, we didn't do anything wrong, they did something wrong and they know it. Let's be honest.
Absolutely.
Nobody writes that kind of memo. So when people say you don't know for sure, the answer is we'll never know for sure. Yeah. And the reason we won't is because, like you said, the mob boss never actually pulls the trigger and leaves his fingerprints on the gun. And he doesn't write a memo to file that says, I told Muggsy to shoot the guy. What he does is he has a private meeting when he says, hey, Muggsy, he's really disappointing me over there. I'm just really, it's a problem. I hope you'll solve that for me. Can you take care of this problem for me? Thanks, Muggsy. And then, of course, when he goes to trial, he says, I just said I was disappointed. I didn't I didn't know he was going to shoot him. And wink, wink.
Yeah.
You know? So that's why you get the memo to file. These people are filthy dirty. It's the most corrupt administration in our nation's history.
And by the way, this Susan Rice, you remember Susan Rice?
Yeah.
That the Benghazi massacre was all over a video.
Oh, she's a serial liar.
Yeah. Just the same Susan Rice.
Yeah.
Well, George, let's take our next break and get our next guest on. You are listening to and watching the Conservative Commandos radio show with George Landrith. I'm Rick Trader, and on the other side, we're going to be speaking with Carrie Lucas. She's the president of our friends at the Independent Women's Forum. And we're going to be discussing the Democrats' $3 trillion Chinese virus bill will hurt employers and employees, and let's say this, the entire country. Don't go away. We'll be right back with our next guest.
Attention homeowners. Do you have a house that's in need of serious repairs? Do you have tenants that never seem to make their monthly payments? How about code violations, past due taxes, or maintenance costs you just can't afford? Then call my friends right now at Quick Cash Offer. They specialize in buying any home, no matter how ugly the situation. Turn that problem property into cash right now. It's just that simple. One call and you can get rid of that home headache forever. They buy the ugliest houses with instant closings, instant cash, and huge savings. Plus, there are no realtor fees, no listing fees, and no repair costs. Just cash in your hands for that painful property. They're buying a few more houses in your neighborhood this month. So take advantage of this cash offer and call Quick Cash Offer now.
855-296-8854. 855-296-8854. That's 855-296-8854.
Listen carefully. If your student loan debt is overwhelming you and things seem hopeless, we've got great news.
If you're still struggling with your student loan debt, there are government programs available that may actually lower your payments by consolidating your federal student loans. Just call us. We'll review your situation and work with you to consolidate your debt. In many cases, depending on your situation, we can lower your monthly payments in half or more. It doesn't matter how much you owe or how far behind you are. Even if you're in default, call us right now to find out how we can lower your payment in half immediately. You can stop the harassing phone calls and the wage garnishments. All you need to do is pick up the phone and call us right now. We can remove your default status, consolidate your federal student loans, lower your payments, and we can do it today. Stop worrying. This is a real solution that can help. So please call us right now.
Call 800-917-8671.
Are you over the age of 50? Want peace of mind and financial security for your family? Here's an important message to you and all seniors from the Final Expense Insurance Hotline. The average funeral costs about $7,000, even more. And the most government benefits will pay your family is only $255. That leaves your loved ones with a burden of paying your debts and funeral costs. Our plans start as low as $1 per day and will pay up to $30,000 for your funeral and other final expenses. There's no medical exam and you'll have lifetime coverage. Plus, your rates will never increase and your plan cannot be canceled regardless of your medical condition, as long as you make your premium payments. Get free information right now. Just answer a few simple questions and get approved right over the phone in just a few minutes. Call right now.
Call 855-221-7334.
Do you have an idea for an invention, but you don't know what to do next?
How do you get in front of companies or get a patent?
Call InventHelp. They've been helping inventors just like you for 35 years.
And thousands of people contact them every month.
With 65 offices, you can meet with an InventHelp representative near you who will keep your idea confidential and explain their invention process step by step. InventHelp has helped over 10,000 inventors get patents. And they offer 3D animations and prototyping services to help demonstrate your idea. InventHelp's exclusive databank includes over 9,000 companies who have agreed to confidentially review new ideas, like yours.
Don't wonder what to do next. Take action right now and get the help you need from InventHelp.
InventHelp. Call today for free information.
800-880-2937. That's 800-880-2937 now.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos, the radio show and the television show, thanks to AM and TV Network, the Conservative Commandos radio network. And of course, if you aren't near one of the many broadcast towers that carry us, you always have Al Gore's amazing internet. We truly are everywhere, with the possible exception of China, North Korea, and Iran, who really aren't that big on freedom, but everywhere else we're there. I'm George Landrith with Rick Trader, and we are your co-hosts today of the Conservative Commandos. Just want to remind you, if you'd like a rebroadcast of our show, check out our website, ccrshow.com. I am very pleased to introduce Carrie Lucas. She's the president of Independent Women's Forum. Great group. They do lots of great work. What I like about them, of course, is that they deal with issues as if we're all human beings, but obviously, they do it from if you will, a woman's perspective. But unlike, in fact, the book that she's written might give you an idea of this, but she's a co-author of Liberty is No War on Women, and she's the author of the Politically Incorrect Guide to Women, Sex, and Feminism. So she understands kind of the politicized nature of these things, and I really appreciate the work that they do. You've probably read her stuff at National Review, Forbes, many other places as well. She's a prolific and a very good writer. So with that, welcome to the Conservative Commandos. We're glad you're here.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Absolutely. You've done some interesting work looking at a very complex issue, and that is the new bill. It's called the HEROES Bill, the Health and Economic Recovery Omnibus Emergency Solutions Act. This is, if I recall correctly, it's kind of Nancy Pelosi's baby. I assume that we've read, at various stages in this process, she's tried to insert, elements of the Green New Deal and other things, into various stimulus packages, but this one seems like it's the granddaddy of them all. I mean, whew.
Yeah, and it's actually, I think that's one of the best things about it, because I do think it is so over the top. It is so big, so expensive, so sweeping, that I think that there is, the good news is that there's very little chance that this is going to move anywhere in the Senate. But it is something we should really take a hard look at, because it does give us a little bit of a preview of what it is that the left wants to do if they are, have complete control of government. If they have their way, this is what would be happening.
There you go, if they have their way. Okay, now thanks to you, I'm going to have nightmares this evening when I go to bed. No, so let's just talk a little about some of the things that are in it that are over the top, because first of all, we can start from a premise and agree that this is certainly a different situation than we had in 2008, when essentially people made bad investments, did stupid things with their money, and then we all had to basically bail them out. Right here, you and I and the rest of America didn't make a stupid decision. Just this pandemic happened. There's panic and so forth. So it's different. I understand, but there are still. You can't untether yourself from reality. And it seems to me that's what's happening.
Yeah, and the aspect of it that I really focused in on in recent writing I've done is looking at the paid leave provisions. And I think this is a really good example, or kind of encapsulates what you're saying, because you're right. This was an extraordinary circumstance. This wasn't just, this was not only a lot of people getting sick and there being a legitimate need for people being able to stay home from work. But actually, this was the government saying you're not allowed to go to work, which is really an extraordinary moment. It's something that's pretty much unprecedented in our history. So it makes sense to some degree for the federal government to come in and say, okay, if people are going to be forced to stay home, here's how we're going to handle that. But what you see in this latest bill was the decision. The left has clearly sees this as an opportunity just to push forward the agenda they've always had, and that is to create a giant, and giant is the key word here, a giant federal one-size-fits-all paid leave program that would really, displace all of the compensation packages that are already out there and just be a tremendous new burden on business. And of course, if something's a tremendous burden on business, that means it's really bad for workers, or for people, even worse, for people who are currently out of work and want to get a job again, because this provision would make it much, much harder to find employment.
Right. I think that's one of the things people sometimes forget, is that you can do something that sounds very pro-worker and give them all kinds of goodies and rights and other things. And all you really do then is make it so that when the employer is in a position to hire, they're going, I need to find a different way to do this. I don't need more employees because the government's made it so costly, so difficult, so problematic. And if you look around in states that have fewer of those kinds of laws, where it's more of an at-will situation, you tend to have lower unemployment, because basically the employer knows if this doesn't work out, we can part ways. And in France, for example, I think when you hire someone, you've hired them for life practically. So imagine how careful you'd be when you hire someone if you thought to yourself, I'm stuck with this person forever if it's a bad hire.
Absolutely. And I do think when you think about some of the differences, or the fundamental differences between the left and the right, and really almost the differences between the Washington kind of swamp mentality and kind of normal Americans, is this idea of most normal Americans, I think, understand this. And they understand, you think about, I wish that there was almost a prerequisite to be a member of Congress, that you've actually had to be involved in kind of a business and seen how payroll works. So you mentioned I'm the president of a small women's organization, Independent Women's Forum. We have 24 people on staff. So we're not terribly small. We're also not terribly large. But that means I'm also an employer. I need to make sure that I can keep paying people. We're supported by donations. So obviously I was somebody who had to look at the numbers and say, gosh, what is COVID going to do to an organization like ours? But the great thing is that I was able to talk to a lot of my employees. A lot of people were able to work from home, but a lot of people had kids who are suddenly in the work. No daycare's closed, school's closed. We were able to have these great conversations about what it is we need, how we can make it work. And I know that this is the kind of thing that small business owners are doing around the country. This wasn't a tug of war over small nickel and dimes. This was people who both have a shared desire for a business to keep running, to find solutions. Well, here comes in the federal government that says, nope, forget that. You can't find your individual solutions. Here's what has to happen. And every single person who was affected by COVID all of a sudden had the right to 12 weeks of paid leave. And this was something that the small business owners are supposed to be able to pass on to the taxpayers. But can you imagine the paperwork from this? And all of a sudden it left people like me questioning, well, does this mean I can't ask my employee who is, who has a kid in the house, that, she can still return emails though, she can still do a little bit of work. Am I no longer even allowed to ask for that? These are all the questions that go up there, and the way that it's so disruptive and so unnecessary. And that's how the federal government did it. And you understand what they're trying to do, but man, it creates a huge mess. And especially, it's one thing to do it in those immediate weeks of shutdown. Nobody knew it was going to happen. There's a big panic. But gosh, as we start to open up or look to the future, the worst thing you can do is put these emergency measures in place. But of course, that's exactly what Nancy Pelosi is trying to do, is to make those things not just emergency measures, but make them permanent.
That's the truth. And one of my frustrations as well is that they're essentially, I think they've made it so that it's, for many kind of more entry-level positions, they've made it so you're financially better off by staying out from work. So when the economy even opens, there's no reason to go back to work because the government benefits exceed what you could get from working substantially. So you you either have to be like brain dead or just so conscientious you refuse to cash a bigger check from the government for staying home. And I don't quite understand why that's going to be good for America in the long run. America working is good for America. America staying home and catching up on all their, television binge watching isn't necessarily that helpful.
What's left to watch, right? No, you're absolutely right. And I think one of the things we've learned, especially if you think about kind of the Obama years and some of the problems we had with the long-term unemployment, I think everybody now understands that long-term unemployment doesn't just hurt people because they are missing money. Of course, that is a problem. But the real thing is is missing out on that experience. You think about right now with a bunch of new graduates coming out from college in this horrific, crazy job market at this moment. The last thing you want to do is send the message, no, better to stay home and collect $600 or an extra whatever it is, this weird tack on to the unemployment insurance. There's a huge incentive now to sit back and not take that starter job. Well, that means not taking that starter jobs means that in 6 months, that second job, that better job you would have had, the one that would have paid more, you're not going to get that one either. And that's just, that's just a tremendous setback for individuals and then obviously for the country in the aggregate.
That's the truth. That's the truth. We're up against the break, and the clock sometimes is a cruel taskmaster, but I'm glad you can stick around because there's more to talk about. I'm George Landrith with Rick Trader. We are coming to you on the Conservative Commandos Radio Network, the AUN TV Network, and of course, Al Gore's Amazing Internet. Just remember our website, ccrshow.com. Don't go away. We'll be right back with more from Carrie Lucas.
Are you a veteran and are you a homeowner? Then think Streamline and maybe save yourself a few $100s every month on your mortgage. A VA Streamline Refinance. It's called a rate reduction loan because mortgage interest reduction is exactly what it does. It's just for veterans and it lowers your mortgage rate so you can save on mortgage payments every month, every year. That's a lot of money saved. And it's so easy to qualify. You don't need pay stubs, a W-2, or bank statements. You don't need a home appraisal. It's fast and easy to apply. And mortgage interest rates are very low right now. So a VA Streamline Refinance makes it super easy and super affordable to take advantage of this opportunity and really cut your monthly mortgage payments. Veteran and homeowner? Call us to find out more. 888-893-7491. 888-893-7491.
Do you have an idea for an invention, but you don't know what to do next?
How do you get in front of companies or get a patent?
Call InventHelp. They've been helping inventors just like you for 35 years.
And thousands of people contact them every month.
With 65 offices, you can meet with an InventHelp representative near you who will keep your idea confidential and explain their invention process step by step. InventHelp has helped over 10,000 inventors get patents. And they offer 3D animations and prototyping services to help demonstrate your idea. InventHelp's exclusive databank includes over 9,000 companies who have agreed to confidentially review new ideas, like yours.
Don't wonder what to do next. Take action right now and get the help you need from InventHelp.
InventHelp. Call today for free information.
800-880-2937. That's 800-880-2937 now.
Is your credit card debt driving you batty? We're going up! Just like your credit card fees and interest rates. To the top! With those sky-high payments! You can't forget about your debt. Always fear, the debt suckers are here. Are your payments sucking the life out of you? Just one call to Consolidated Credit can get the debt suckers off your back. Consolidated Credit will lower your interest rates, consolidate your bills into one easy payment, and get you out of debt fast. Call Consolidated Credit and get your life back.
Call 1-800-201-8213. 1-800-201-8213. That's 1-800-201-8213. 1-800-201-8213.
When debt is the problem, Consolidated Credit is the solution. Because debt sucks!
Attention Viagra and Cialis users. Are prescription drugstore prices too costly? Get 50 generic pills for only $99. That's right, 50 100 milligram generic Viagra for only $99. Our products have the same active ingredients as the brand name products. Money back guaranteed if you're 100% not satisfied. Get 50 generic pills for only $99. Order now and call the number on your screen. Have your credit card ready.
Welcome back to the Conservative Commandos, the radio show and the television show. We're grateful you stuck around. We've got lots more to talk about. I do want to remind you that you can check out our website, ccrshow.com, for rebroadcast if you want to view or listen to one. They're all there, and we encourage you can get more information there as well. We've been talking with Carrie Lucas, who is the president of the Independent Women's Forum. Great organization. She's also the author of some interesting books that I think are worth considering, quite frankly, because we live in a world where often gender politics are used as a weapon against conservatives, and yet she makes a great point. Liberty is no war on women. Liberty is awesome. I can remember when I ran for Congress. Sometimes someone asked me what was my position on. They said women's issues, and I said, well, I'd like to reduce their taxes too. I'd like to make sure they have more opportunity too. and they didn't like that answer. But at any rate, she's also the author of the Politically Incorrect Guide to Women, Sex, and Feminism. So great font of all kinds of great information. And Carrie, if I can I shift gears just a little bit, and let's talk about some issues that might deal more with things like kids, things like education, childcare. As we get opened up again, it seems like we've made some miscalculations, and I just wanted to kind of ask you, as a group that I don't think that kids are primarily or only a woman's concern, because I'm a father. I have 7 kids, and I'm deeply concerned. But I totally understand that women are too. So I would expect that a women's group would have something to say about education and so forth.
No, absolutely. And it is interesting as you think about some of the barriers to getting people back to work, that the question of kids is a big factor, because obviously if a governor decides that they want to go ahead and open up the economy again, well, great. I'm very supportive of trying to open up the economy again. But there's a lot of folks out there, about 40% of working Americans, who have school-age children. And that means if you have a kid who you expected to send to school, and those schools are shut, going back to work is not going to be all that easy for you. And obviously, it's not just the public schools that have shut down, but also daycare centers. So it is a real conundrum for a lot of parents, and policymakers need to become mindful of that.
And it seems to me that there's this other challenge. It's not just it's not like just parents are complaining like, oh, well, the school was going to take care of my kids and now they're not. It's that the school's not educating their children, so they now need to. So a lot of parents, I've talked to many, my kids are getting old enough now that homeschooling's not the issue right now because they're in college and things like that. But bottom line is, they've become homeschooling parents. That is, they just report it's a full-time job, so they don't have the option of going to work. Not because they're complaining that the government won't take care of my kids while I go to work. It's if you're not going to have school, I've got to teach them, and I can't do both.
Yeah, absolutely. Homeschooling is a serious matter. Then obviously there is I've got 5 kids. My oldest is 14, but I still wouldn't want to leave her. If I had to go to a job all day, I wouldn't want to leave my 14-year-old home alone to try to do her homework on her own for 8 hours or whatever. That's not fair to a kid like that. So there's a lot of parents in that situation. And then also, it's interesting. One thing that I was kind of struck by is you think about all of the daycare facilities that are closed right now, and who is going to work at those daycare facilities is since it's mostly staffed by women. A lot of those women have kids who were at school when they were at the daycare center. But I think there are some solutions, and I think one of the most encouraging things that's happened as a part of coronavirus is a lot of governors have looked at some of the laws that are on the books and said, this is crazy. We need to break down barriers so that nurses from Pennsylvania can come and help out in New York if that's where they're really needed. And there's been some of this deregulation going on. Well, I really hope that this will happen in the daycare sector particularly, because right now some of there's tremendous barriers to entry for daycare providers, and especially for what we call home-based daycare providers. And it's interesting because these are the things that a lot of parents are most attracted to. If you have to leave your child, especially a kid under 5, a lot of times parents are looking for something that most closely resembles the home environment. They want to have, comfortable house, kind of that communal feel. But it's really hard for somebody right now in most states to start a daycare center in their home. I think it would make a lot of sense to look at some of those regulations So right now there's often, and some, it varies by states, but often there's things that are really pretty stringent about how homes are organized and the facilities. If you have chipped paint, which, if you're a mom with 5 kids, or George with 7 children, I don't know about you, but my garbage and my, my food containers aren't all snapped on top. And these are the kind of regulations they'll sometimes have, that you're not allowed to be a daycare provider if you don't meet these really kind of high level standards of cleanliness and facilities. I think we can wipe a lot of that away and start helping people solve these problems kind of in a common sense fashion.
You make a very good point, because we've heard all kinds of stories about how we're trying to reduce certain regulatory burdens to make it easier for American businesses to make things that we used to buy from China, for example, emergency stuff like masks and other things. And the question is, well, why only do that right now? Why not actually fix this problem? And so I think you've raised a very good point, which is one of the bright sides here is maybe we can actually look at all the regulations we've allowed to pile up and ask ourselves, which one of these really do promote the interest of the American people versus they got just kind of thrown in there because of poor judgment at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's certainly, we're seeing that happen in the healthcare sector, where all of a sudden people are saying, what are these laws that prevent hospitals from having more beds? It's absolutely, some of these certificates of it's an incredible. It doesn't make any sense. If a normal person looks at this, they say that's crazy, but it's been on the books for a long time. And same with these barriers to medical professionals. You think about there was just incredible impediments to using telehealth care. And this idea that you could never talk to a doctor, like we're doing right now, having a conversation where, there's so much information you can do online like this. And now we realize just how important this is, particularly during a pandemic, where you don't want a pretty healthy person to come into a hospital, which can be the most, or an emergency room, which can be the most dangerous place of all, and something with an easily spreadable virus. So I think, I'm hopeful that is a silver lining that we might come out of this with.
That makes a lot of sense. Can you, I want to make sure our listeners have the, I want to have you on the show lots. So, but the point is I can't have you on every day because you have other things to do. So that our listeners can be up on the things that you and the Independent Women's Forum are doing every day, fill us in on all things online so they can make sure that you're favorited, that they're checking with you, because it's some just great information on a daily basis.
Great, thanks so much. Yeah, the Independent Women's Forum is on our website address is iwf.org, so it's real easy, just IWF. And then come find us on Facebook at Independent Women's Forum. We also have a C4 partner called Independent Women's Voice, and that gets a little bit more in the rough and tumble of following kind of the political tug of war, so that's a lot of fun. But please come see us, and IWF is on Twitter and on Pinterest and Instagram and kind of any social media platform you can find. And we are kind of, I think we strike a nice balance between we're serious about policy, but we also try to make it a lot of fun. And, we do believe that, all issues are women's issues, that women shouldn't be pigeonholed, but women do have a unique perspective. So I think a lot of women will find, and men will enjoy coming and seeing this kind of different flavor.
I think that's true. I think that I love your organization and the things that it does and the perspective it brings, because you really do exactly what you just said. You deal with issues that are issues, but they're issues that affect us all, just like this conversation was. But you bring a woman's perspective to it, which I think is very important and worthwhile, and it's very helpful to have people who are not just kind of like angry white males standing up and speaking in behalf of freedom. It's harder to dismiss a woman who's saying freedom matters. So I'm very glad that you're out there and making the case for freedom. Thank you so much.
Great. Well, thank you. This has been a lot of fun. Do have me back.
I will. So we are up against the break, and I want to thank you for joining us. I just want to remind you, you're listening to Conservative Commandos. I'm George Landrith with Trader. We will be right back after these messages.
Everybody wants cheap airfare. But where do you find it? You call low-cost airlines. Their prices are direct from the airlines, and they're so low you can't find these fares published anywhere. They specialize in cheap flights, discount hotel rooms, cheap car rental rates, and great package deals anywhere around the world. Wherever you want to go, they can help you get there cheaply and with a best price guarantee. If you want the lowest prices on your airline tickets or other travel services, call now. That's right, call. That's the only way to get these rates. Experts are standing by 24/7 to get you the cheapest airfare and hotel rates available. So don't wait. Call right now for the lowest travel prices anywhere and for great last-minute travel deals too.
Call 888-431-0562. That's 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562. 888-431-0562.
Dish TV is better than cable TV. Here's why. Dish has the nation's lowest TV price, along with an award-winning DVR that can skip commercials, record 8 shows at once, and get access to thousands of movies at your fingertips. Cable simply can't even compare. So the smart choice is to cut the cable and get Dish. Plus, you get all these great TV features, free HD DVR upgrade, free installation, and free movie channels. Say goodbye to cable and get more with Dish TV. 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. As an added bonus, you can switch to Dish now and receive a $50 Visa gift card. So call now and get Dish TV. Call 877-290-7764, 877-290-7764. That's 877-290-7764. Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification required. Cancellation fee, monthly equipment fees, and other restrictions apply. Promotion can change at any time.
Friend, do you remember when it felt good to withdraw your cash from the bank to expand a business, go on vacation, or buy a new car? Well, today, withdrawing your own cash has become a very risky business, according to The Secret War, a shocking new research report. I just read it. And folks, I was amazed to learn why banks are now required to spy on us for the government and then report any suspicious or unusual behavior. I suggest you get The Secret War free. Just call the number on the screen, no charge, from the folks at Swiss America, and get this. Did you know simply spending cash today may be enough to have you branded as a potential criminal? That's right. The new war on cash is really a war against all freedom-loving Americans. The Secret War is yours free, so call the number on the screen and you can tell them Pat Boone gave you the number.
Well, George, that just about wraps it up for today's show. And as always, I want to thank you for sitting in as my co-host. And George, please tell our audience how they can keep track of what you do and what you do at Frontiers of Freedom. Those things, those little things you do when you're not here on Conservative Commandos.
Absolutely. Well, Frontiers of Freedom has an easy to remember website. It's FF, like Frontiers Freedom, ff.org, just 2 F's, ff.org. And then if you want to follow Frontiers of Freedom on Twitter, it's FOF_liberty, FOF_liberty. And then for me, it's very clever. It's G Landrith, Landrith with a G in front for George. I mean, talk about clever. Woohoo!
I keep thinking about the website for Frontiers of Freedom, ff.org. That was probably the fifth, as I say. That was probably the fifth website that was ever registered. I mean, it's ff.org.
Pretty simple stuff.
Can't forget that. And George, we had a couple of great guests joining us.
Absolutely. Having Michael Pack on to talk about Clarence Thomas and the movie and just how they did that and the work they put in to tell the story, I thought was fabulous. And I hope that, people will go and watch it online, and they can go to their local PBS website and watch it. I don't normally watch a lot of PBS, to be honest with you, but this is worth watching. Michael Pack's a conservative, and you can tell that he wanted to tell a powerful story and does. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, Carrie Lucas with the Independent Women's Forum is always interesting, talks about liberty. She understands that the gender, if you will, agenda of the 21st century is largely a made-up construct, and she understands that liberty is good for everybody, male and female. So I'm glad to have her making the point, that we can't afford this craziness, and it doesn't matter if you're male or a female, debt is going to kill us.
Right. Well, George, that just about wraps it up for today's show. I want to thank you for sitting in as my co-host, but for right now, we're out of time, and we got to run, and we got to go. Take care, God bless, and we'll see you tomorrow on TV and on radio.
Hey everybody, coming to you from my little Zoom studio here, and you need to hear this because you're being bombarded right now with these really over-the-top accusations against the president that he's got blood on his hands, that his denial and delay has cost lives, and that basically he took no action until it was too late. The question is any of this true? All right, let's start back in January. January 15th, the first patient with coronavirus enters the United States from Wuhan. That was also the same day that these impeachment pens were being handed out. But luckily, the administration was on top of it. A couple of days later, January 17th, they were already implementing screenings at San Francisco, Los Angeles, and New York airports for flights coming in from Wuhan. But still, even about a week later, our mainstream media was still promoting things like this. Doctors saying, hey, this isn't a big deal, not much more dangerous than the flu. Nevertheless, President Trump did implement that travel restriction on January 31st, even though things like the World Health Organization were saying no need to limit trade and movement. And they largely criticized President Trump's travel restrictions. Same day, January 31st, that Nancy Pelosi proposed the No Ban Act, which would actually stop President Trump from implementing the life-saving travel restrictions that he did implement. So was everybody else really sounding the alarm at this point in time? No, of course not. Headlines like these were being written, and constantly, and by mainstream outlets. Again, I don't blame them. These are the facts they had at the time. Adam Schiff, the chairman of the Intelligence Committee, was getting regular updates in that committee, but he didn't even publicly talk about coronavirus until February 25th. And let's not forget that President Trump did talk about the coronavirus in the State of the Union on February 4th. What happened to that State of the Union? That happened. So fast forward a couple of weeks when the president actually asked Congress for supplemental funding to combat the virus, $2.5 billion. What did Nancy Pelosi do? Instead of putting that money on the House floor to be voted on, she put a bill to ban flavored tobacco. That was the priority of the Speaker of the House. You also hear a lot of criticism for Trump being overly optimistic. But this is what Nancy Pelosi was saying in late February, telling people to go out and enjoy themselves for the Chinese New Year.
Come to Chinatown. Here we are.
Same with Bill de Blasio in New York City. I want to be clear, I'm not blaming them either. We all have the same set of facts. Even around the world, places like Italy and Spain and Iran, their cases didn't start to spike until early March. And even they didn't lock down. Italy didn't lock down until March 10th. Spain didn't lock down until March 14th. Iran, not until April 4th. Places like Sweden didn't lock down at all. As these countries locked down, were we just doing nothing? No, of course not. President Trump implemented travel restrictions from Europe on March 12th. And what did the media say? All of that. All of that. Widespread criticism. How could you do this? What's the point of this? Well, does this really sound like an administration that's in denial about this? Of course not. And a few days later, we implemented our own 15 days to slow the spread, which then turned into 30 more days. Okay, fine, say the critics, but what about the PPE? We were well behind. We should have had more in the national stockpile. Yeah, that's true. The USA Today did a fact check on this. As it turns out, most of our stockpile was depleted after the H1N1 virus. Okay? And the Obama administration never replenished it. That's the truth. Am I blaming them? No, not really. They don't have a crystal ball. What about the testing? We were behind on that. And that's President Trump's fault, right? Well, no, not so simple. Early on, the CDC started to develop a test, but China refused to give them actual samples of the virus, so it was harder to make a test. And also, they didn't do a great job of it. Also, long-standing FDA regulations prevented our private industry from actually developing tests. The Trump administration reversed those regulations that had been around for well over a decade. This is the main point here. If we're going to look back in time and try to suggest that our government should have shut everything down back in February, well, where's the evidence for that? We're really going to shut things down when our cases hadn't really started to increase? When it barely started to increase in places like Italy or Iran? Of course not. They didn't shut things down until way later. Do you really think that we should have lost tens of millions more of jobs and livelihoods based on almost no evidence at the time? Is that really a reasonable expectation? Is that really a reasonable accusation? No, I don't think so. Listen, I don't want to blame Democrats for this at all. I don't think we should. I don't think there's a lot of people to blame for this, except for China, of course. It would be time for all of us to give each other a little bit of grace and understand that at the local, state, and federal level, everybody is doing their best to fight the pandemic. And we're going to need to stop the dishonest finger pointing as we move into the next phase, where we figure out how to reopen our economy and fight the pandemic alongside that. Thanks for listening.